Night fell like a curtain pulled by an unseen hand, and the city lit its 1,000 lanterns. Between neon and rain, a young philosopher named Lucian walked with his collar up and his eyes down. He knew the map of temptation by heart, the streets that smelled like perfume and electricity, the windows where mannequins posed as promises, the late-night glow of screens that never seemed to blink. He could quote Marcus Aurelius in 3 languages, and yet he felt as if he belonged to a 4th, the wordless language of hunger. Desire does not burn because it is evil, he had written in the margin of his journal. It burns because it is alive. If I do not learn to tend the fire, I will be its smoke. In the mornings he lectured at the Lyceum across the river, speaking on virtue and moderation to students who saw in him a steady shore. In the evenings he felt like a man swept out to sea. He was not chasing bodies so much as visions, that cinematic montage of imagined touch, admiring eyes, proof that he was wanted, wanted, wanted. It was a ritual. He would promise restraint after one more night, one more click, one more drink, one more late walk on the boulevard where music leaked from doorways. Morning would find him tired and contrite, moving prayer beads of quotes through his head. That evening he stopped before a shop window. A mirror leaned there among the goods, tall and slightly warped. In it he saw not a professor but a stranger, jaw tight, pupils wide, a tension around the mouth as if bargaining with himself. The mirror seemed to ask, "What are you really searching for?" Inside the glass he imagined another Lucian, one who did not need to be chosen to feel complete. The image flashed and was gone. Rain ticked on the awning. He thought of Epictetus. You are an impression. Pause. Had he ever truly paused? Or had he simply bounced from stimulus to indulgence like a moth that confuses light with moon? A woman passed him on the sidewalk, laughing into her scarf. The sound was bright, ordinary, harmless, and yet it tugged the string tied to his ribs. He followed a half-step before arresting himself, ashamed of how quickly the body answers to bells. He took out his notebook, wrote with wet ink, "If I know what is right, why do I still fall? Because knowing is a lantern, not a leash. I need a hand to hold the lantern when the wind rises." The wind did rise. It carried cigarette smoke and saxophone notes. He turned toward the river to cool his face and found, improbably, a stranger standing under the arch of the bridge, older, composed, watching the water as one watches a stubborn child. She glanced at him. Her eyes were not hunting or judging. They were observing, like a physician's. "Bad night?" she asked. Lucian wanted to deflect with wit. Instead he said, "A familiar one." The woman smiled without showing teeth. "Then it is time to make it unfamiliar." "By what magic?" "Not magic," she said. "Method." She turned her palms upward as if weighing stones. "You are moving very fast inside. You will not outrun yourself. You must learn to stop." The rain softened to mist. The river licked at the stone pilings like a patient animal. "I'm Cassia," she said. "Walk with me." They walked along the embankment where the lamps threw coins of light onto the wet pavement. Cassia spoke as though continuing a conversation he had not yet begun. "Desire," she said, "is energy. It keeps the world blooming, but untrained it burns the field it meant to feed. You think you need to amputate the fire. You don't, you need to govern it." "I've tried," Lucian said. "It lasts until midnight, because you fight when you should notice. You argue when you should breathe. The first discipline is not suppression. It is clear seeing. Come to the gardens tomorrow before sunrise. We will practice." "Practice what?" "The pause," she said, and left him at the stairs, her umbrella a small moon drifting up into the city. Lucian watched the place where she had stood. The night felt newly scripted, as if a director had called for silence and every extra obeyed. He looked again into a pane of glass, saw his reflection, and this time it did not accuse him. It simply waited. He wrote one more line. "Perhaps I have been trying to win a war when I should have been learning a craft." He went home through alleys he did not know, letting the rain erase the path behind him. Before dawn, the gardens were less a place than a temperature. Mist lifted from the grass in small ghosts. Cassia was already there, seated on a stone bench like a queen dressed in simplicity. Lucian sat opposite her. The city was a hush of engines and faraway bread ovens warming. "Let us begin with truth," Cassia said. "You believe you are tempted by objects. You are tempted by phantoms, your own interpretations." Epictetus again. It is not things that trouble us, but the opinions we have about things. Tell me the last time you felt captive. Last night, he said. A passerby's laugh. My mind wrote a story faster than I could object. And what did the story promise? Validation, victory, a moment where I'm undeniable. Then write a truer story, Cassia said. Not a moral sermon, a clear description. She taught him an exercise. When desire rose, he had to name it precisely and locate it in the body. Not I am weak, but a warm pressure gathers behind my sternum. Images flash. The jaw wants to act. Then he had to ask, what is the judgment here? Maybe it was, if I do not pursue, I will feel empty. Then he was to test it as a scientist. Is that so? He was to breathe. Not large heroic breath, but slow surgical breath, and imagine the urge as a wave seen from a cliff. He did not have to surf or drown. He could watch. Desire is a storyteller, Cassia said. You are the editor, they practiced. Lucian closed his eyes and conjured last night deliberately, the laugh, the turn of the head, the magnetic pull. At first he was afraid the images would swallow him. But under Cassia's instruction they become brushstrokes, not hurricanes. He noticed details he never noticed in the frenzy, how desire sped his inner monologue, how his shoulders crept toward his ears, how he urged himself as if he were both jockey and horse. He wrote this in his notebook. The seduction is not of flesh, but of narrators. A chorus stands in me shouting, do it, do it, do it, and I call the chorus I. Cassia watched him write.
Good. Now consider Marcus. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Your power is not over the laugh in the street.
It is over the script that follows it. What if the script is, I notice beauty, I honor it. I do not chase it like a beggar. Then I am left with my emptiness, Lucian said. You are left with your space, Cassia corrected. Space in which to build something durable. Obsession is cramped. Virtue breathes. They walked a circuit of the gardens as light came, each tree gaining veins and complexion. Cassia taught him a second practice, premeditation malorum. Imagine a day, she said, in which you will be tempted in 10 different ways. By glance, by memory, by loneliness, by a screen at midnight. Rehearse it now. See yourself pausing in each scene. Hear yourself giving clear commands. When the real day arrives, you will find yourself executing a plan rather than improvising panic. Lucian practiced until he could summon an urge without obeying it. He learned the biology of craving, how the body surges and subsides. He learned to label with compassion, not contempt. This is hunger. This is adrenaline. This is fantasy. This is me choosing now. No flame was outlawed, only ungoverned flame. At the garden gate, Cassia stopped. You are not trying to become stone, she said. Stoicism is not numbness. It is choosing the right use of impressions. You will still feel the pull. You will feel it with dignity. Will it ever stop? Lucian asked. No, she said. But it will bow. He returned to the day with a new gravity. When his students debated whether pleasure could be a good, he no longer bluffed. He told them, pleasure is a guest. If you let it host the dinner, it will burn your house. That night he tested the method. He walked the boulevard and noticed every invitation. He named them. He felt the waves. He watched them peak and soften. He did not fight. He practiced custody. When he returned home, the quiet was not a punishment. It was a storm day, the kind where the cloud ceiling presses low like a hand on the crown of your head. The Lyceum canceled lectures. Lucian walked because the room felt too small. Rain stitched the avenues into a single wet fabric. He passed the theater district where posters boasted golden bodies and glittering teeth. The chorus inside him, long quiet, cleared its throat. He took the long way home to avoid his old haunts and wandered into new ones. In the window of a cafe sat a musician he had admired from afar, eyes closed, headphones on, tapping a rhythm that made the air around her pulse. Something in him broke rank. Just a conversation. The story wrote itself fast. You are harmless. You are interesting. Fate wants this. He reached the door. He paused. He did the steps, named the sensations, tested the judgment. The wave rose high and curling, higher. He breathed and felt himself steadier, until a memory undercut him with surgical precision. A night years ago, a perfect kiss in the rain, the sense of being fully chosen. The wave crested. He went inside. What followed was not scandalous, not even dramatic. A brief talk, a phone number, a second meeting that became a third, a mutual loneliness mutually medicated. It was the after that scorched him. He woke at 3 a.m., stomach hollowed by guilt, not because he had broken a law, but because he had betrayed a promise to himself. He had not chosen. He had been dragged. He walked out into the storm. The city's gutters were brimming, their water the color of coins. He whispered to the rain, "I wanted to be the fire," not its smoke. The river hissed and pulsed, and there by the same arch where he had first met Cassia, Lucian knelt with his palms on the cold stone and admitted a truth he had avoided. "I am not addicted to pleasure. I am addicted to relief, from emptiness, from doubt, from the fear that I am ordinary." A figure approached and set an umbrella above him. Cassia's voice was steady as rainfall. "Good, now we can work." "I failed," Lucian said. "You practiced," she corrected. "Show me your failure exactly," he told her. She did not flinch. "You believed a memory was a mandate. You took a tender thing, your need to feel chosen, and handed it to the weather. Stoicism is the art of tending tender things. Tonight you will not swear oaths or carve commandments. Tonight you will learn mercy. Mercy for what? For the part of you that is still a boy waiting after school for someone to say his name with fondness." Lucian lowered his head. The rain softened. "Listen to me," Cassia said. "Lust is a disguised prayer, a plea to be seen to be alive. When you answer the prayer with impulsive action, the appetite grows louder because it was never actually heard. Sit with it. Hear it. Answer carefully." She taught him to place his hand on his chest and breathe a 4-count box until the trembling slowed. She told him to speak aloud, quietly, in the voice he would use to reassure a child. "I see you. You want warmth. You want to feel real. I will give you warmth that lasts." Then she gave him a task that felt impossibly simple. Go home, draw a bath, drink water, write 3 pages answering the question, "What I truly want from love is..." And then sleep, he obeyed. In hot water he felt the static drain. The pages filled. Companionship, respect, a partner in wonder, a shared language that makes the day more vivid. When he slept, he dreamed of a lighthouse, fixed, luminous, refusing to chase ships yet guiding them all the same. He woke with a sentence burning. "I will be a lighthouse." Not a lightning strike. The storm had moved on, leaving the city washed and calm. He texted the musician a kind closing note. He opened his curtains. He set the kettle. The morning felt like a new instrument in his hands. Days unfolded into a disciplined ritual that felt neither rigid nor loose, but tuned. Lucian kept a small card in his pocket. Name the urge. Locate it in the body. Question the judgment. Breathe the box. Choose the next right use of energy. He practiced premeditation malorum each dawn. He imagined the day's temptations and rehearsed replies, brief, courteous, decisive. He deleted the apps that had turned his phone into a slot machine. He organized his room until it served his purpose the way a smithy serves a blacksmith. He wrote a letter to his future partner, whoever she might be, promising that when they met, he would offer not the residue of 1,000 compulsions, but the brightness of conserved attention. That attention changed flavors. He found energy he used to burn in fantasy now powering curiosities he had neglected. He learned to cook like a monk. He copied passages from Seneca by hand. He walked the long way to the Lyceum to greet the old vendor who sold oranges in winter. His body calmed. The chorus in him quieted not because it had been gagged, but because it had been given better music. When urges arrived, and they still did, he met them like old rivals with whom he had negotiated a truce. At night, if loneliness knocked, he lit a candle and read Marcus. If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. He realized the first "it" included the covert theater of the mind. So he trained the mind to stage better plays: gratitude, craft, friendship. Cassia introduced deliberate voluntary discomfort. For 1 week each month, Lucian slept on a thin mat, fasted from salt, and took cold showers, reminding himself that he needed less than the market shouted. The point was not to punish, but to prove he was not a hostage to comfort. The freedom he felt was clean as mountain air. He kept meeting Cassia under the bridge or in the gardens. Their talks were spare and precise. "What if someone admirable invites you in?" Cassia asked. Then I will enter, Lucian said, with clarity, no false promises, no secret hunger recruiting a stranger into a war she didn't start. Cassia nodded once. Good. Stoicism is not never. It is know why. One evening, a student named Mara stayed after class. She asked careful questions, not to impress but to understand. They walked out together. When the conversation tipped toward personal warmth, Lucian felt the old wave assemble, and then he felt it bow. He named it privately, located it, breathed, and let the moment be human rather than hungry. He told Mara he enjoyed the talk and would see her next week. He went home light, not deprived. He wrote, I have mistaken intensity for intimacy. Intimacy is attention over time. He began to teach this publicly, not the gossip of his struggle, but the architecture of restraint. Attendance swelled. People came hungry for a sentence that would let them pilot their lives. He gave them a handful. Your attention is your vote. Pleasure is a guest. Practice the pause. You are not your urges. You are their keeper. He kept his failures close as compass points. Months passed. He felt like a man slowly mastering a musical instrument. Not a prodigy, not flawless, but fluent enough to make something honest and beautiful. He knew the song could go off key in a minute, so he tuned daily. And then the day arrived that tested whether this was a phase or a way of being. It was spring, the city a gallery of fresh leaves and open windows. The Lyceum hosted a public dialogue on love and freedom. Lucian was paired with a guest speaker, Ariel, a writer whose work had a gravity he admired. She spoke from the stage the way some people pray, with candor and restraint. Afterward, they walked along the river beneath lanterns strung like little moons. The conversation was easy as tidewater. Twice Lucian felt the old spark try to seize the wheel. Twice he chose presence instead of rehearsal. Ariel said, people think self-control is cold. It can be, he admitted. But it can also be warm. It's the warmth of keeping promises. To whom? To my future self, and to the person I might love one day. She looked at him with a soft amusement. You speak like a lighthouse, he laughed. I've been called worse. They exchanged numbers. They parted without the ache of unfinished business. Lucian returned home and stood at his window. After the lecture, as the crowd spilled into streets perfumed with basil and night-blooming jasmine, Cassia waited for him by the gate the way she always seemed to appear at thresholds. You've done well, she said. I've begun, he corrected. She looked pleased. Yes. Keep beginning. They walked with the easy quiet of people who do not need to decorate silence. At the bridge she paused. You asked on the first night whether there was magic. He smiled. You said method. There is magic, she said now, but it is on the far side of method. Practice grows into mystery. The mystery is this. When you stop chasing, the thing you wanted arrives not as a conquest, but as a gift. And if it doesn't, then you will have gained yourself. That is not a consolation prize. They parted. Lucian crossed the bridge and felt the city underneath him like a living instrument tuned to A. He went home and sat by his window until the sky paled. He thought of Ariel, and he did not fantasize. He simply wished her well and returned to his breath. He felt desire surface, bright and clean, pointing not outward like a spear, but upward like a flame that warms and illuminates. He picked up his journal and wrote the last entry of that season. I used to worship the spark. Then I tried to kill it. Now I carry it. In the pause, I meet my power. In the plan, I practice fidelity to myself. In the purpose, I spend the fire wisely. I am not cured, I am capable. I am not stone, I am still. When he closed the book, dawn had pulled its first thread of gold across the rooftops. The city woke with him. Somewhere a bell rang the hour. He made tea. He opened the door. Outside, the air had the taste of rain and beginning. He walked toward the gardens where everything had started, and as he passed a shop window, he caught his reflection again. Older around the eyes, yes, but unafraid of his own gaze. He lifted 2 fingers in a small salute to the man in the glass, and the man saluted back. The fire within did not roar. It glowed, a hearth in a house finally in order, ready for guests, ready for winter, ready for love when love would come, not as a rescue, but as an arrival at a shore he had already learned to call home.